Natalie, can you confirm that you can see the presentation?
Yep, I can see that.
Okay. So my name is Toy Harper. I am a Trading Standards Officer, and I have been a Trading Standards Officer for about 3 years now. And before that, I used to work for Thames Valley Police as a police investigator. I have with me Leonie Dove from Age UK, and she's going to give you some information about lasting power of attorney. And we have here our BSL interpreter, Marie Biswell, who will be with us throughout the presentation. So we're going to start off now with Leonie. And so I'm going to mute myself and my camera, and then I'm going to...
Hello, my name's Leonie. I'm from Age UK Surrey, and I am the LPA coordinator for Age UK, and I cover the whole of the Surrey area, so that's 11 different boroughs. I'm pleased to be here today to talk to you about lasting powers of attorney. Now I'm hoping to share my screen. If you bear with me for a moment. Now, hopefully you're able to see.
Yeah, we can see that.
Okay. Lovely. So, Age UK Surrey, we support older people through challenges of later life. So, lasting powers of attorney, these were created by the Mental Capacity Act 2005, and they replace enduring powers of attorney. So, if anybody already has an enduring power of attorney, that's absolutely fine. They should last for your lifetime. You just can't make a new enduring power of attorney now. It would be a lasting power of attorney. The difference with an enduring power of attorney is they only deal with financial matters, whereas the lasting power of attorney will also deal with health and welfare if you choose to complete both types of document. So the idea is that a person is able to appoint one or more people to act for them as their attorneys, and they would choose people that they know and trust to be able to look after their financial affairs or their health and welfare if a time came when they either needed help or have lost capacity and are unable to deal with things themselves. So that's the idea of the documents. They're very popular at the moment, and the Office of the Public Guardian, who register these documents, they are dealing with several thousand each year. Now, both types of these lasting powers of attorney must be registered with the Office of the Public Guardian in order for them to be valid. Now, once registered, the financial lasting power of attorney can be used straight away. Some people think or believe that it's only to be used if somebody loses mental capacity, but it's not actually. It can be used straight away. There are often times when somebody perhaps just gets to a good old age and they can't cope with their financial matters. They still have capacity, but they need help with maybe one or two items, not necessarily everything, but they might come across the odd thing that they need help with. That's when the attorneys can step in and help them. So the health lasting power of attorney, that one is slightly different because that really only comes into play properly when somebody has lost capacity, because all the time you can make decisions for yourself about your health and welfare. You will be the ones making those decisions. It's only if, with the health one, it's only if you lose mental capacity or are unable to communicate your wishes. That's when your attorneys would step in. So the attorneys under a financial LPA will deal with anything, any assets they own. So money in a bank, stocks and shares, a house if you own it, land, absolutely everything that has monetary value. They would be able to deal with pensions and benefits, so absolutely everything. an attorney would be able to do for you once you've appointed them. So the health lasting power of attorney, that will deal with medical issues, care issues, where the donor is to live. Now, the donor is the person making these lasting powers of attorney. The donor is the one appointing the attorneys. And the health lasting power of attorney deals with everything to do with health and welfare. So in order to make a lasting power of attorney, the donor's got to think about lots of things, first of all. So who are they going to appoint as attorneys? They've got to be people they know and trust. They can't be a bankrupt person, and obviously it's not a good idea to appoint somebody who is bankrupt, who has had problems dealing with their own affairs. Wouldn't be a good idea to have as your attorney. So think carefully who you're going to have as an attorney. You can have one or more than one attorneys. Now, if somebody has perhaps two children and they think, right, I'm going to have my children as my attorneys because they know me the best, I trust them, so I'm going to have my two children. You then go on to think, well, what if both of my children are unable to help me in the future? Who would I like as a replacement attorney? So you can choose a replacement attorney as well. Now, your replacement attorney, you've still got to trust them as much as you do your attorneys. And you've got to decide when they might come into play. Would it be if you lose one of your two attorneys, or would they only come into play if you've lost both of your attorneys? Now, when I say lose them, I mean if an attorney becomes unable to act for you, so either through ill health, some permanent reason, not just they've gone on holiday. So that's when a replacement could step in. If you've got more than one attorney, you've also got to decide whether they're going to act jointly, which would mean they all have to decide, make decisions together, or if you decide to have them acting jointly and severally, and that would mean any one of your chosen attorneys would be able to act for you on their own. Now, it might mean they still discuss things together, but at the end of the day, one can make a decision for you. So that's something to also think about. You can, if you want to make your lasting power of attorney slightly more complicated, you can have your attorneys acting jointly for a particular matter, maybe the sale of your house, you know, something that you think is so very important, you definitely want them to agree on any action to take. So you'd say, right, for the sale of my house, I'll have them acting jointly, but for everything else, they're to act jointly and severally. So that is also an option. When choosing to have your attorneys act jointly, you do need to think very carefully. I don't actually recommend you appoint attorneys jointly, but occasionally there might be good reason to do so. But the problems you can have when appointing attorneys jointly is that if one predeceases you, the others cannot continue to act for you. So if you've got perhaps three attorneys and you've appointed them to act jointly together, and one predeceases you, you've suddenly lost all three. So you can cover this possibility, but as I say, the more you put in your lasting power of attorney, the more complicated it can be. So we do recommend you think carefully before stating you want a joint appointment. The joint and several, if you trust your attorneys, which is so very important, if you trust them, then why not have them joint and several? Why not have it so that any one of them can act for you? It does mean that if one is on holiday or is unwell themselves, the others can still act for you. Also, a problem you could have with a joint appointment is that people don't always agree. So if you've got three attorneys and they just don't agree, you can't have a decision to whatever that problem is. If they can't agree, then there's no moving forward. So it's something to give careful consideration to. Another thing to think about is who is going to be your certificate provider. Now, this is like a glorified witness, really. They do have an important role. They've got to be somebody who has known you for at least 2 years, but is not a relative. So your certificate provider could be just a friend or a neighbour, as long as they've known you for a couple of years. Now, their role is confirming they've known you. They are confirming they believe you understand the documents you're signing. They're confirming that nobody's forcing you to sign, and they're also obviously witnessing your signature to the document. They've got their own page in the lasting power of attorney, excuse me, that they have to sign to confirm these things. So that's the role of certificate provider. If you really can't find anybody, I mean, most people are able to find a certificate provider. They've got a neighbour or a friend that can act as a witness. But if you really haven't got anybody, it is possible to have a professional certificate provider. The best route to first of all go down is to ask your GP if they will offer this service. Some GPs are still offering this service, and some will do it for free, some will do it for a small charge. If you don't have a GP and you don't have a friend or neighbour, you can pay for a professional certificate provider, but this does cost quite a lot of money because their role then, because they're professional, they are more regulated, and they have to do a full mental capacity check on you because they don't know you. So they've got to start from scratch, and they've got to make sure that you do have capacity. So they will be charging, and their charge is likely to be around the £300 mark. So quite expensive. You could also go down the solicitor route. So if you were asking a solicitor to provide these lasting powers of attorney for you, they may well act as your certificate provider, but not all solicitors will. So bear that in mind as well. Another thing to think about is, do you want preferences and instructions to be included in your lasting powers of attorney? A preference is a wish. It's something you would like to happen, but it's not something that the attorneys absolutely must follow. So an example of a preference in your health lasting power of attorney would be, I wish to remain living in my own home for as long as possible. Instruction is something that the attorneys must do. Now, instructions are things that can be difficult to get passed by the Office of the Public Guardian. You've got to be very specific in what you're saying and the words you're using to make sure that it's acceptable. You obviously can't instruct your attorneys to do anything that's illegal. More often than not, guidance as in your lasting powers of attorney will be preferences. Guidance to your attorneys would normally be preferences rather than instructions. But an example of an instruction in your financial lasting power of attorney would be, perhaps if you've got a sibling who is an accountant, you might state, I would like my attorneys to provide an annual statement to my sibling, and then that is an instruction. That's something they must do. So that's the difference. Another thing is to make a decision. Do you want your attorneys to be able to give or refuse life-sustaining treatment? Now, this is literally a yes or no. Yes, I'd like my attorneys to be able to make that decision, or no, I want to leave it to the medical staff. Now, again, most people will say, yes, the people I've chosen as my attorneys, they know me well, they know what I would want in different situations, I've spoken to them. I want them to have that ability to give or refuse life-sustaining treatment for me. Now, as a reminder, this is only if you are unable to make the decision for yourself. Perhaps you have had an operation, you haven't yet come round, and a decision needs to be made. So that's an example of a time when your attorneys, if you've said so in your lasting power of attorney, that they can make that sort of decision, that's when the medical staff will go to the attorneys to see what they believe you would want. Now, these lasting powers of attorney, anybody aged 18 years or over can make a lasting power of attorney. You can make a lasting power of attorney online without any help from anybody else, or you can have help. I'm not saying you can't. So you can go online and make these documents. You need to, after you've made the documents, you need to be able to print them so that the documents can be signed. At the current time, digital signatures are not accepted by the Office of Public Guardian. Obviously, this can be daunting for many people. So instead, you can instruct solicitors to prepare the documents for you. Their charges are quite high. I mean, I've been told that I've had several people say to me, It's currently around £1,500 to £2,000 for one person to do both types of document through solicitors. So if you're able to do them online, then great, you'll save yourself that money. Now, I've not really said the reasons why you should have a lasting power of attorney. It's really that nobody knows what's going to happen in the future, which perhaps is a good thing. But sometimes you may come into a situation when you are unable to do things for yourself, particularly now that we have COVID around. There can be times when you are in a coma, worst case scenario, you're in a coma and you're there for a few weeks. So unable to deal with your finances, unable to make medical decisions for yourself. That's, a prime example of when your attorneys will step in. They can take care of your home, any bills. They can make decisions regarding health and welfare if that's necessary at that time. So it can be important in that respect. Also, you may have heard fairly recently about Kate Galloway with her husband, Derek, who was affected by COVID. He unfortunately didn't have a lasting power of attorney, and this not only affected her ability to manage his finances, it also affected her ability with her own finances, because they had joint accounts, joint finances between them. And when somebody loses capacity, the co-owner of whatever investment that is will not necessarily have access to that investment. It can be frozen. Once the organisation knows that one party has lost capacity, they will not allow the other party access to those funds until such time as the person who's lost capacity has somebody representing them. So in that situation, if there's no lasting power of attorney, then somebody has to apply for deputyship for the person who's lost capacity, and that is quite costly. It takes a long time to apply for a deputyship, and it's a different role. There are expenses, annual expenses. You have to provide written accounts to the Court of Protection. So it's very different to lasting power of attorney. So it's definitely something to think about, having lasting powers of attorney in place in case you need them. So that's some reasons for having them. Now, I've said doing your own lasting power of attorney can be quite daunting for people. So Age UK Surrey, we offer a paid-for service where we visit the client in their own home, and we go through everything. We go through the documents, make sure the client understands the options they have. So the meeting takes about an hour and a quarter. We take all the information that's needed. We then give the client a summary of the choices they've made. Now, obviously, during that first meeting, things may be discussed they haven't thought about before. And so they have the summary, a few days to look at it, to think, well, is that really what I want to do? They can let us know if there's any changes they want to make or any additions. And then we send them the completed lasting power of attorney documents ready for their signature. And we give them full instructions on how to sign and date the documents. It is important to get the order of signatures correct. And the Office of the Public Guardian is very strict. They will reject documents if there's the slightest problem with them. So we will check the documents once they're signed. We'll have them back. We'll check that we believe they're okay. I would say 50% of the documents come back with something that needs a slight tweaking in order for the Office of the Public Guardian to accept them. So our service, if anybody was interested, for one person to make one lasting power of attorney, it's £350. So that covers our whole service. For one person to do both lasting powers of attorney, it's £400. And for a couple or partners living in the same household, so not just spouses, as says here on the screen, but partners living in the same household, can have all 4 lasting powers of attorney for £600. There's no VAT. Now, in addition to this fee, and whether you do your lasting powers of attorney through solicitors or yourself online, there is a registration fee of £82 for each lasting power of attorney that you complete. There are exemptions. So if you're on means tested benefits, so something like the guaranteed element of pension credit, that will mean you're exempt from the registration fee. So you will save £164 if you're doing both LPAs. If you're on a low income, which they state is 12,000 gross per year, then you would have a 50% reduction in that fee. So you'd only pay the £82 for both types of lasting power of attorney. So once these documents, whether you've done them yourself or someone else has done them for you, they're sent off to the Office of Public Guardian for registration. Now, if you're paying by cheque, the first thing you will notice is that they have cashed your cheque. They won't write to you and say, I've got your application. They just take the money, and it will be another 15 weeks before you actually have an acknowledgement from them. Now, they will then write and say you're in the 4-week notice period, and after that 4 weeks, they will send you the registered LPAs. So if you've come to us for our service, once you've told us you've received the LPAs, we then explain how you can make certified copies of the documents for future use. We do recommend you have certified copies of the document, because if you have an urgent matter, it's so much easier to grab a paper copy of the document to have it with you, or the attorneys to take it, particularly as there's a health and welfare issue. They can just pick up the certified copy. They've got that with them to show the medical staff their authority, and also to show them about any guidance that's written in those documents. So we would recommend you have certified copies. Now, the donor can make these copies themselves all the time they've got mental capacity. There is opportunity to purchase them from the Office of Public Guardian as well. But that takes obviously longer to put in place, and if you can do something for free, then why not? The other way of this is talking about when you're actually using a lasting power of attorney. The other way to use and let organisations know who your attorneys are is to use the Office of the Public Guardian online service, which is free. Now, this is available for people who have registered their LPAs from the 1st of January 2016. You will be able to register for this online service, whereby if you want to tell a bank or another organisation that this document has been set up, you give them an access code. And with that access code, they go online and they can check with the Office of Public Guardian any information they want to check regarding the lasting power of attorney. And there's no need for paper documents then with that service. You will, though, still get certain organisations, including some banks, say, well, actually, no, we won't go online. We do want to see a paper copy. So this is why we do recommend you make your own certified copy if possible once they're received. So that is the end of the presentation. So I'm not sure if anybody has any questions. I'll come back out of the screen.
There's a couple questions in the chat, Leonie, so I'll just quickly read those out to you. So one person was just asking, sorry if you've already covered any of these, but someone was just asking, can you alter an existing LPA?
You can, when you've got capacity, when the donor has capacity, they are able to remove an attorney. So if something goes wrong, or they don't like how somebody's acted, or they've fallen out with their attorney, they can remove them, but they can't add one in. So that if they've removed somebody and they've got a replacement, it might mean their replacement attorney steps in, or if they've got more than one attorney, that remaining attorney will be able to continue. So you can make that change. You can also update, and you should update your lasting power of attorney if the donor moves home, or if any of the attorneys move home. Obviously, if an attorney dies, then the document needs to be updated, and that's just by, generally, it's just by writing to the Office of the Public Guardian to inform them.
Thank you, Leonie. There's another question just saying, if your GP will not witness the LPA, where can you access a professional certificate provider from? Is there a recommended site that you can go to?
There isn't, unfortunately. You can contact us at Age UK Surrey, and we can give you details of those that we are aware of. We haven't yet. I've been doing this for Age UK Surrey. Our service was set up for 3 years. I haven't yet used a professional certificate provider apart from a GP. So we can't recommend somebody, is what I'm saying. We can give you details of companies we know offer the service, but we're unable to recommend anyone as we've not yet used anybody.
There's another one just saying, if I put my account into joint names, would that person be able to take over that account should I die or be in a coma?
If you die, if you've got a joint account with somebody and you die, then yes, that joint account will normally transfer to the survivor by what they call survivorship. So that would be automatic. But if you go into a coma, then no, it doesn't go to the other joint owner automatically. This is where I was explaining Kate Galloway's problem with her husband. He lost capacity. He didn't have a lasting power of attorney. She, as joint owner of that account, or accounts, I think it was more than one, didn't have access to the money because there was nobody representing him. And therefore the organisation will look at that investment as being the two joint owners as being one entity. So they needed to have somebody looking after both halves, if you like, of the investment. So no, if one person goes into a coma, the other can't access that account unless there's an attorney involved or a deputy.
Thank you, Leonie. What I'll quickly do is I'll just take a question from Karen as she's had her hand up. I have unmuted you, Karen, if you want to quickly ask that. The other questions that are put in the chat, what I'll do is I'll collate those and we'll pass those on to Leonie after the session, just to get the feedback. And then when I send you all the information afterwards, obviously we can cover that in that, just to keep on time. So did you want to ask a question, Karen?
Yeah, sorry, just very quickly, Leonie. I had a gentleman on the phone yesterday, and his neighbour, who was a 93-year-old lady who is now totally incoherent, when she made the lasting power of attorney, it was obviously this issue of there was a problem with the certificate. In between them getting it rectified, she is now classed as incoherent and has lost total capacity, so she can't sign her lasting power of attorney. Her son, who is 70, is unable to do it through mental health issues. So the neighbour next door, who has been a close friend of the son, he's in his 70s, the pair of them, the son and the neighbour next door, and they're a little bit stuck as to now what they can do. And the issue is over, believe it or not, their telephone. They need to change the service on the telephone, and they can't do it because the telephone people want to see the power of attorney, and obviously the power of attorney hasn't been registered. Is there any advice I can give him?
Unfortunately, because it's not been signed, had she signed it when she was capable, then it would have been okay.
No, she signed it, but the Office of Public Guardianship, there was a problem with the signature. So as it went back, because it's taken so long, as you quite rightly said, it's 15 weeks, because it took so long, she became quite ill within that time.
She did sign it. So do you know what the problem was?
No, only he just said to me there was an issue over the certificate, over the signature. Now, whether it was her signature or a, like you're saying, the witness, I'm not too sure.
So that would mean going back to the Office of Public Guardian, finding out what the particular problem is and explaining to them the situation. If she's signed while she was capable and there's no problem with her signature, there may well be a way around dealing with that, because she's done it when she was capable, and attorneys can sign after her. She will have signed that back page to register it. So it really depends on what the problem is as to whether they can get around it. But because she signed it when she was capable, there is a chance that it will be able to go through.
Other than that, would it be the Court of Protection and this deputyship that you talked about?
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
No. Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. Thanks, Nat.
Okay.
Thank you, Leonie, for your presentation and your time. As Natalie
welcome.
mentioned, thank you. As Natalie mentioned, unfortunately we haven't got the time to answer all the questions, but Natalie will collate all your questions, any outstanding questions that haven't been answered during the presentation, and we will give you the answers at a later date. So thank you for your time, Leonie. More than welcome to stay for as long as you want, Leonie, but I know you may need to head off soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. We will be finishing at around midday today. So we will have opportunity to talk about scams now. What we will be doing is be giving a chat about scams and be having questions during the presentation. So I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. Natalie, can you confirm that you can see the screen?
Yeah, all good.
Okay. So we're now going to embark on talking about scam and scam awareness. We'll be here for about 55 minutes. I just want to make people aware that we will be giving information and examples of scams that we as Buckinghamshire Surrey Trading Standards have been involved with. These examples are real life examples that can be upsetting for some people. However, the presentation is designed to empower you for you to have a greater understanding of scams, how they work, and the effect that scams have on people. If you do have any concerns about the presentation, please put your hand up or raise it in the chat and we can talk about it either during, before, or after the presentation. Also, due to the sensitive nature of scams, if you have any personal or confidential concerns that you may have, you may find it more appropriate to contact us after the presentation rather than talk about it in an open forum such as today. If that's the case, Natalie will pass on her details to everybody. So if you do have a personal situation you want to talk about and it is confidential, please reach out to us. So today you will understand the purpose and importance of lasting power of attorney, which Leonie has just done. We'll learn what a scam is and who is targeted by them. Learn about the common types of scams and how to spot them. And importantly, find out where to go to help, and there is support available, and how to report scams. We'll also identify ways to help raise scam awareness. What is really important is for people to realise is that all scams are fraud, and all frauds are a criminal activity. A scam basically is somebody who is tricking you into providing money, personal details, account details, and things like that for the sole purpose of their own gain and for your loss. A scammer will not only try and steal your money, but they will also try to steal your identification as well. And the purpose of that is so that they can get loans in your names, they can set bank accounts in your names for money laundering, or they can pretend to be you in order to gain access to your account. So it's really important by the end of the session that you are able to identify what a scam is and how to report it and how to get help. So just background information. Fraud is the most commonly experienced crime and it accounts for about 42% of all crime against all individuals. Over 55s are more likely to be scammed. However, the age group between 16 to 34 are more susceptible to being scammed because there is so much online scams out there at the moment. In fact, the latest statistics shows that during last year's festive period, £10 million was lost between for age groups between 26 to 35 years of age. So £10 million lost in a period of a couple of months, mainly due to online scams and the people buying things through online marketplaces such as eBay and Amazon. A third of all all those who have been scammed will fall for a scam again within a year, and that's because scammers will sell your details over to other scammers. So it's why it's really important to identify whether you've been scammed or not and seek help from us so we can prevent you and help you from being scammed again. And even though it is the most commonly experienced crime, fraud, only between 5 to 10% of scams are reported. That's partly due to the fact that some people don't even realise they have been scammed, and I will give you some of these cases in a later while. Or people are too embarrassed about the fact that they have been scammed. They feel that they have been duped. They feel that they shouldn't have fallen for it, and they feel ashamed of being scammed. We'd like to stress to you the importance that no one should be ashamed of being scammed. The only people who should be ashamed are the scammers themselves, and that everyone should be encouraged to report a scam. So, why are scams so successful? Basically, scams are a product of organised crime groups. They are very, very good social engineers. They do this as to earn money. This is their livelihood, and they have honed their MO so that they can strike law-abiding, decent citizens such as ourselves. They always appear legitimate, they appear helpful, they appear charming. In all the cases that we will show you, they've all started off like that, caring, charming, legitimate. They have the right logos, they have business cards, they have uniform. But then they still start to end up being persuasive. They end up being persistent, and the scammer will continue to target you for hours, if not days, if not weeks, if not months, and in some cases, years. So, what happens with scams? Firstly, the ones a person has been scammed, they feel a sense of shame. They don't feel that they can talk to anyone, and which leaves the risk of social isolation. They keep it quiet. They hear so much in when they're talking to people. Oh, I would never fall for that, or they say, oh, they're stupid to think about that. Anyone and everyone is susceptible to a scam. Okay, how many of us are ever busy? How many of us are hungry or tired, or something's going on at work, something's going on with your home life, when you are not 100% completely on focus on that approach from a scammer, and that is when they will target you and get their claws into you. So once that social isolation kicks in, you don't think that you will speak to your friends, your family, you have that sense of shame, you may be in debt, you may struggle with money, you have that increased sense of loneliness, and that increases your vulnerability to more scams. And that leads to the fact that scammers will target you further. They will target you in a separate way, in a different way. So, for example, you may have been scammed by an investment scam, but at a later date, they will scam you as far as a romance is concerned. Okay, so there is that this is how a scam usually works. And then there's this. Then there is an increasing cycle of engagement with a scam. So someone responds to a scam, they lose money, The scammers will then sell your details over to other scammers, and then they will be continually targeted by criminals. So the person just ends up receiving more scams. And so that is how the cycle of engagement occurs. Before we move on to the different types of scams that are there any questions about what has been covered so far? No? Okay. So there are 4 main types of scams. There is the postal scam, phone, doorstep, and online scams. We will take each scam in turn, and we will give you an example of each of them. This is an example of a postal scam, and what I will give you whilst you read that is a background of this. So this elderly gentleman was getting lots of postal scams in regards to lottery. So basically saying that you've won the lottery, or if you keep subscribing to our lottery, you'll keep getting money. He was also getting lots of letters from clairvoyants who pretended to be clairvoyants and said to him either he has bad luck coming his way, a bad fortune, and if he pays these people money, they can reverse that bad fortune, or they will say that you have got good fortune coming your way, and if you pay us this money, then we will make sure that good fortune will come your way. So just a few things to highlight. So this client of mine had been scammed over a period of decades, and he always corresponded to these people. So this is a letter that he sent to a scammer, and there are some things that I want you to highlight. One of them says, it stopped getting overdrawn all the time, is trying to meet the large sums you and Angus Nelson keep requiring me to supply you, and Angus Nelson keep replying to you. Basically, he was getting letters from these criminals every day, and sometimes several times a day. I may not have enough for my own shopping. He was in such dire straits financially. He was living on toast and tea. And if he was lucky, or he felt he was lucky and he felt he deserved it, he would sometimes have jam on his toast. So that is how bad he was in looking after himself due to the financial restraints he had, because he gave all his money to scammers. To withdraw £80 to post to you now may not be possible. I may be able to do so next Monday when the state pension comes in. So he's giving away personal information to scammers. And this sentence would be very enticing for scammers, because it's saying that he is still getting money in and he's still willing to give money to the scammers. And so that would mean that they target him even further. So a lot of people see these letters with regards to clairvoyance and they think to themselves, why on earth would someone fall for a scam in regards to clairvoyance, in regards to lotteries? So I asked him this. I said, why respond? He said this: I want to give money to my daughter so they don't sell my home and put me in a nursing home. This is an elderly gentleman who lived on his own. He was estranged from his daughters because his daughters felt that he wasn't capable of living on his own, and he felt that they were trying to sell his house to put him in a nursing home and then use the equity of the house for their own means. So he thought that if he had his own money, then he can give it to them and then he can repair his relationship with his daughters. As far as his lottery scams are concerned, he says you've got to be in it to win it. How many of us have heard that in commercials in everyday life? You've got to be in it to win it. The mere hope of winning some money and getting some money was enough for him to keep continuing responding to these scams. And in this case, it was another lady who was getting the same nuisance letters and same scam letters as this gentleman. She thought she was a psychic too. She says, I'm a psychic too. I thought they were my friends. We had a common bond. And in this particular case, this woman was an elderly woman. She was looking after her husband who had dementia. There was also elements of coercive control from her husband, and the scammers were the only people she was talking to besides her husband, who was being abusive towards her. She thought that they were her friends, and she'd been giving money to them for 20 years. And this gentleman who is my client, he says, I'm hoping to win so I can move near my brother. He was so lonely, he would do anything in order to be able to move near his brother. Are there any questions, queries, or comments about postal scams before we move on to phone scams? No. Okay, so there are lots of text scams, lots of WhatsApp scams. What I've done is I've updated these scams to so that it's the latest scams that have appeared on my phone and my colleague's phone and my family's phone. So a common one is the DVLA scam at the moment. So this text message, it pretends to be from DVLA. It says that your driver's license needs verifying, and it's asking you to click on a hyperlink. There's another scam circulating at the moment for Every, who is a delivery company. They're saying that they are attempting to deliver make a delivery today, and to reschedule a delivery, then to click on a hyperlink. I'm not sure about you, but I mean, a lot of people buy things from Amazon and other online marketplaces, and they're not sure who is making that delivery. It could be DPD, it could be a man in a white van, it could be anybody. So it's not unusual for people to expect a text message from a delivery company saying that a parcel has been failed to deliver, and then that is why this scam text is very successful. And the latest scam that's targeting people is our messages in regards to jobs. Okay, so this is a one that's saying that they are offering jobs online. It's been recently in the news saying that they are reviewing benefits, especially people who are on disability allowance or something equivalent, to push people into employment. Scammers will know what's going on in the local news, and they will deliberately have a scam in place to target what is currently in the news at that time. If you do receive these scam text messages, please forward these scams using by texting 7726, which spells out spam on your keypad. Okay. Any questions in regards to text scams or anything like that? No. What is important for you to understand and how to recognise a text scam is have a look at any obvious spelling mistakes. So I'm going to use my highlighter here, and for here, can you see how it says, hello, I am Big Commerce? Now there shouldn't be a capital B and capital C. Also, if it's too good to be true, so for example, this one is ranging for a daily payment of £100 to £600 a day. If it's too good to be true, it's too good, especially when it says here that you only have to work 30 to 60 minutes in order to get this £100 to £600 a day. Okay. If you are concerned, for example, this one being DVLA, if you are concerned that that's something is legitimate, make sure you go to the official company. So if you look at that DVLA thinking, oh, I wonder whether DVLA needs to check my driver's license, go onto your web browser, go onto the DVLA website, make sure it is the DVLA website, and see whether they need to verify your records. And as far as the delivery is concerned, it's every, but it could be DPA or it could be HSBC. Never click on what is known as a hyperlink, which is what is underlined. Okay, never click on the hyperlink, actually go onto the website and find out whether you can track your delivery. Any questions before we move on to doorstep crime? This is an example of a doorstep crime that occurred that we supported in Buckinghamshire and Surrey Trading Standards. This was an elderly couple aged between 89 to 84 years old. They had already employed a trader to build an extension, and this was the extension that was being built. Now, the builder that they had employed, they parted ways amicably, but essentially they were left with an extension that hadn't been completed. So a trader came to their door, noticed that building works were being done and hadn't been completed, and claimed to have rented the property a few years ago. They said that they could complete the renovation work with no extra cost and will use the same costs as the previous builder. So the couple agreed. So the couple agreed to a payment of just over £20,000. So on the first day of the work, whilst the couple were going to a hospital appointment, the trader was allowed into the property to start the work. When the couple came back, they found that the trader had demolished the living room wall. So here is a picture of the living room wall. And what you can see here are the struts that were holding up their living room wall. So the trader hadn't done the renovation work to the back of the extension at all. They literally demolished an internal wall. The couple were incredibly shocked about this and said, why on earth had this happened? And the trader said, well, your wall was crumbly. So can you imagine being in your 80s and being faced with basically your internal wall being demolished? So they felt that they had no alternative but to carry on with this trader and to carry on paying extra money for them. The trader then said that the loft was in a poor state and that the whole roof needs to be replaced. They asked for a total of £300,000. The couple managed to negotiate them down to £270,000, but they felt that they had no choice but to agree to the works. When the couple went to transfer the money, the bank had suspected that it was fraudulent transactions and they were concerned that the couple was being scammed, so that they contacted the police and the police in turn contacted Trading Standards. And this was how the photos were obtained, but they were obtained from Trading Standards. And it shows the state of the house that the couple were living in. So that was the ceiling. That was their kitchen, that was their bedroom, and this was the state of their house. From basically what was going to be an extension at the back of the house ended up being a house that was completely wrecked. When we investigated the case, we looked into the trader and we found out the trader was also dealing with an elderly couple in the southeast in London. what we were seeing here was basically what we mentioned before, the fact that this trader was working not just in Buckinghamshire, not just in Surrey, but also around the southeast of England, and they are part of an organised crime group. The Trading Standards went to court with this case, and both the trader and his employee ended up having a custodial sentence. But unfortunately, during the progress of the investigation and the court case, the gentleman for both couples passed away before the outcome. So in some respects, it was very good that the trader was sent to prison, but the stress and the outcome of the case and the investigation was just too much for both elderly gentlemen. Any queries about doorstep scams before we move on to online scams? No. Okay. So I'm going to move on to online scams. Okay, online scams can vary from a dodgy email through to a dodgy website, through to romance scams. And what we've got here is an example of a romance scam that was targeting a deaf person. This was a young lady who thought that she was in a relationship with a soldier from the United States. And she thought she had been in a relationship with this gentleman for months and months and months. During that time, she had been giving him money to the extent whereby she ended up getting in debt herself, as well as not being able to pay for her energy bills or her rent. She was so embroiled in this scam and in this relationship that she then started asking a family member for money to help who she thought was her boyfriend. So here is an example. Here is the message that the family member was getting. He knows that the UN threatens me. They've asked me for £1,000. If I don't pay for this £1,000, I will. My dear boyfriend, who was called James William, he would kill him. He would be killed. He would be completely destroyed. I am low paid. She felt that this man was genuine because he sent her a photo. She was not aware of the fact that people's IDs can be faked and people's photos can be faked. Okay, so she thought that this was a genuine person because she got sent a photo of him. She then asked for £200. She says, let me know. And she says to her family member, I love you. She continues with these messages to her family members saying that I'm sick with grief. The UN, she's trying to contact the UN to say, you know, what's going on with my soldier, with my boyfriend. I need to give £1,000. But the UN obviously won't contact him, will not contact her. She then gets pressured and says that she will need to find £1,000 within a very short time scale. She wants her family member to talk to the UN. She wants her to give her money so that she can find the £1,000 because she is in absolute fear that her boyfriend, who she doesn't know is a scammer, is going to die. The conversation with her family member carries on, and she sends her family member screenshots of conversation with her, who she thinks is her boyfriend. And the family member starts suspecting that actually her boyfriend is not a boyfriend and is a scammer. And one of the main reasons why she realised that is the fact that the person who she is corresponding with ends up changing her name. And when the family member speaks to her sister and says, you know, why is the name changing? She says this: his real name is called James William, but he changes his name because he doesn't want a hacker to know his real name. So she gets drawn into basically the scammer's web of lies. She says she's going to be dead. She's going to be dead. She says that her boyfriend is going to be killed in the war. She is in absolute in grief over concern over her boyfriend. Unfortunately, in this case, she then speaks to the scammers and says to her boyfriend and says, "My family think that you're a scammer. Are you a scammer?" And the person writes back and says, "Actually, I'm not a scammer. I'm your boyfriend. I am your love. Your family don't believe that you deserve love. However, I do think you do. I do think you deserve the world. Your family don't believe in love. Your family don't believe you deserve in love. I don't think you should speak to your family." And unfortunately, this young lady is now estranged from her family because she believes in this person, this James William. And that is how coercive a scammer can be. Any questions about this particular case or online scams in general? So, what can we do about this? How can we empower people so that they can identify a scam and know what to do and actually fight against scammers? So one of our schemes is a scam marshal. A scam marshal sends their scam posts to the investigation team. They can talk to family and friends about scams and the good work that they are doing. And it helps us investigate who these scammers are and prosecute them. It also provides vital intelligence as to what scams are out there and identify possible scam victims. So the postal scam example that I gave you, that gentleman did not know that he was being scammed. It was only because volunteers who have been receiving scam posts have been sending it to us as scam marshals did we manage to investigate the scammers, find out the list of people that they are targeting, and that is how we identified this gentleman. So this is why it's a very good scheme that we are running. So if you know of anyone who is getting scam mail through the post, then they can register to be scam marshals. As far as nuisance calls are concerned, if you do have a landline and you are hard of hearing, or you're not hard of hearing, but you are getting nuisance calls, we can provide a free call blocking device. It's free for anybody who lives in Buckinghamshire and Surrey. But if you do live outside of those counties, please message us and we will find out whether the local trading standards in your area also provide the same device. It protects from nuisance calls and scam calls. It gives extra safety for vulnerable users. It is attached to part of the landline and it's a separate unit from the landline. So if you are interested in our call blockers, please message us and we will pass on that information and make a referral for you to have a call blocker if you live in Buckinghamshire and Surrey. But if you don't, we can find out whether your local Trading Standards office provides the same service. So as far as doorstep scams are concerned, the main advice we can give you is this. If you are not expecting someone, and if you do not know who is at your, if you're not expecting someone, if you do not recognise the person at your door, do not open the door to them. Anyone who is legitimate should have given you a letter to warn them that they are coming, and they should be willing to allow you to check their ID by checking their ID card, shutting the door with them being outside the door, and for you to contact the business to make sure that A, they are who they say they are, and B, they are expected at your property. Anyone legitimate wouldn't mind waiting or coming back at a different date and time. So a doorstep scams, usually they say something like, you know, I've got a loose tile on your roof, I'll give you a good price to repair your driveway, I'm cleaning your driveway, I'm doing a survey, I'm working next door. Essentially, if you have any work that is required on your property, seek advice from your friends and your family, because a personal recommendation is a great recommendation, okay? Make sure you get 3 written quotes from 3 different traders, and also make sure, do you know who they are? Do you know what your cancellation rights are? Can you contact the trader again? And what are your rights if it goes wrong? Okay. If it's too good to be true, it's too good. Okay. So don't feel, so if you've got something, I don't know, a leak in your roof or anything like that, if a trader says, I can come today and fix it today, well, if your neighbour doesn't want that trader, then you're not going to want that trader either. Okay. We have sticker packs we can give to you that you can put on the outside of your door. So these are our stop cold calling sticker packs that you can have that are here. And there is some information about general scams in this sticker pack here. So your top tips. Regardless of what the scam type is, whether it's postal, phone, online or doorstep, these are our 5 top tips. Never disclose any security details, okay? Never give out your account number, your sort code, your date of birth. Never give out your security details. If a company is legitimate, they will always have your details already. So that would be your bank, your doctor, DVLA, they will always have your bank details and they always have your details that they need. Don't assume everyone is genuine. Just because they phone and they sound confident and they sound like they know what they're doing does not mean that they are genuine, okay? Don't be rushed. If they're rushing you or they're trying to persuade you to do something without you being able to think it through slowly and clearly, then don't be rushed. Just put the phone down, shut the door, close the email. Don't be rushed. Stay in control. And listen to your instincts. If it feels funny in your gut, it is funny. If you're feeling panicked and you are worried, speak to someone who you are you know and you trust. Okay, so if it feels funny or if you're feeling panicked, trust your instinct and speak to someone that you know, and always stay in control. So how to report a scam and send and get some more advice. At the end of the session, we are going to be giving you links for more information about scams. But if a crime is happening now, you must ring 999. And if you are a BSL user, there is a 999 BSL emergency video relay. For more advice on scams and consumer protection, there is Citizens Advice Service, and we'll provide that information later on. And if you want more information, then please contact us. We're also running a campaign called No Blame, No Shame campaign. What we want to get the message out there is fraud and scams is going to keep on continuing unless we stop it, unless we act as a society to stop it and stop people thinking that they are to blame for being scammed. That is not, they should not feel the shame at all, okay? So what we would like people to do is promote this session. It's going to be put on YouTube, so anyone who couldn't come today can see it at a later date, and actually speak to your friends, speak to your family, speak to your colleagues. We are also doing, if you live in Buckinghamshire or Surrey, or you live right close by, or if you fancy coming to Buckinghamshire or Surrey in this week on a holiday, you can come to the local garden centre, and a member of the police are going to be there, along with Trading Standards, to give information about scams, safeguarding, online shopping, especially with you know, Black Friday coming up, and with Christmas coming up. So if you want to speak to us in person, then please come to our garden centre. So congratulations, and you are now a Friends Against Scams. So after that is, you can also be a scam champion, and a scam champion are one of our vital, important volunteers who help us promote scam awareness. So that's the end of the presentation. So any questions?
Thank
Or
you,
have I
Poi.
bored you all?
What I'll just quickly do, Poi, is I'll just stop the recording now so that we
Okay.
end that before any questions. So let me just stop that. So stop recording.